Chocolate is it's kind of my passion. It's the ultimate comfort food. It gives you that feeling of like satisfaction. To me, if I don't have chocolate, I crave it. I just have to have a little piece of dark chocolate. So to me, chocolate just tastes like, they call it the food of gods or goddesses, but I really think that it's just one of the best flavors. Chocolate and coffee. Well, before I started school, I was working in a hospital, and I was a receptionist. When I would go home is when I would start to play around and, make truffles. And I didn't really quite understand all of the chemistry to it. I didn't understand, like, well, why is it not setting up now and it did yesterday? I didn't really understand it, and I really wanted to figure out what I was doing wrong, and I decided to go to school for it. I found a place called the French Pastry School, and it was in Chicago, which at the time we were living in Iowa City. And so we decided to go visit the school, and I just really fell in love with it. I had not ever seen anything like it. I could tell, by talking to a lot of the students, that they were getting a lot out of what they were learning, and I could tell from the chefs, like, they really meant business. It was kind of a boot camp of sorts, like a pastry boot camp.
I don't think I would have ever been like one day, oh, the chocolate business is where I'm headed. Wendy was the primary person whose passion sort of took us into this world. So I essentially learned from Wendy. I mean, I was, kind of trained on how to get in there and make the dipped chocolates, and what the ganache is made of, and all those kind of things. Like what exactly happens what makes the chocolate sort of get that dull look to it. I just assumed it's old, but when in fact, it's the whole temperature gets wacky, and then suddenly you can have cocoa butter doing weird things, sugars can do weird things. I've had to kind of learn all that on the job. People don't think about, they think about when it comes to chocolate, they think about that must be the funnest job ever. Like, you're just playing with chocolate all day long, You think about the fun parts. And so the incubator was a place where you start to see all those little pieces, like who's entering these products into a system, how much are you gonna sell it for, are you covering the cost of those materials, all those little nuts and bolts parts of it.
So it was 2008. We got our space in the incubator, and we were like the second food business that had been in there. So it was kind of a new thing, but we knew once we moved in there that we would have to get out and do markets and things.
We provide a safe place for new startups to become established enough to move out into the community where they grow and add jobs. A lot of the clients in the building that have like retail stuff, they do sell out at the market. She would produce here on site, and then she would load up whatever it was she needed for market each weekend and take it over there and sell.
People became familiar with us mostly from doing the market. It helped us understand that, I think we're gonna need a storefront. So we've found a space on Main Street on the south side of Chattanooga. There weren't many businesses on that end of Main Street at the time. And then we were in this big building, but word got out and people came, so it was really, really nice to have, a place with a storefront.
As far as moving into another space, you start out and you sort of start to try to figure out how's this going to flow, with an idea of like, well, this room back here needs to be the chocolate room. No one, really needs to come in here that aren't making anything. And then you have sort of the flow into the presentation area. We were able to have a little bit of seating there, which was nice.
When you open a storefront and you have to hire your first employees, that was hard. It really is, because you think, oh, am I going to be able to pay these people? Are they going to show up? Are they going to do what I need them to do? You just don't know. So we were lucky. We found some great people to help us. Shortly after we were there, that building had sold. So we immediately had to go into searching for a second space because we knew we weren't going to be able to stay. Looked and looked and looked, and luckily I had somebody come find me, and he believed in what we were doing. And I went and looked, and at the time the space it didn't even have a ceiling. It had been vacant for 30 years or so before we moved in. So just going, it wasn't even a mile away. It was just a couple blocks away from our other location, but just moving around the corner on Market Street, the visibility was so much better. Our business tripled. It was wonderful having that location.
I think there's two things. You got to have passion and you got to have drive. If you're passionate about something, it's going to enforce that drive. We don't have many failures. I think there's maybe been 2 in the entire time I've been here, and that usually is somebody that's working as a hobby, something they're working in their basement, and they're not fully committed to, they might have a second job, but if you have the drive and the passion and you're prepared, there's no reason you couldn't succeed, and that's for anybody.
We were busted at the seams, like we just needed more space to work. And so I kind of was thinking, from the beginning how great it would be to own our own building instead of having to find a landlord. So we purchased this building in 2020, right before the pandemic. And so, it was supposed to be our second location, but it really has been so hard to get it open. We went through a total renovation of the building and feel like it's ready to go. It's just the pandemic really changed everything.
As COVID-19, the way it affected, and it continues to affect the business because of you've got the supply chain that you're always hearing about. I would say right now it's the inflation that we're sort of seeing come out of all that's still affecting the business.
Most definitely we're still recovering from it. Our business took a big hit from it, from having to close and shut down. And it really changed how we had to do a lot of things on Market Street location. We ended up closing for a few months. Post-COVID, it's been a challenge, but what keeps me going is making something and those customers seeing how excited they are about things. And when I actually get a chance to get in the kitchen and make something, I remember at that point, like, oh gosh, this is just so nice. It's the fact that people come to us and love what they get and are excited to come to our shop. It just blows my mind. I love it so much. It's why I do what I do. Yeah.
Most startup companies fail within their first 5 years of startup. Companies that come through the incubator have a 92% success rate of being in business 5 years after they move out of the incubator. It's exciting to watch these guys grow. You have a company that starts with 1 or 2 employees, and you see them grow enough to move out into the community and add jobs. There's nothing better than that. It's fun to, it truly is watching someone grow. And it's fun to watch them be successful once they're out in the community.
Place I'd like to see the business go would be sustaining itself, number one, continuing to be able to offer new products. I hate to think of one day being the place that like, oh, they had to, they just couldn't make it work in the long haul or whatever. And you always want to be there. I hope to be there for those people that make you part of their experience.
I don't want to ever see this business end because I just, love being able to offer something different to Chattanooga. And really everywhere. I mean, people from all over come here. And it's just a fun experience. So the future of the shop is, I just want it to keep going.